Hello and welcome back to another Flutter tutorial. In this video, we will see how to make a music player just like Amazon Music or the iTunes Music, which will run in the background and also in the lock screen with basic controls showing up in the lock screen to control the music, right? So this is the basic UI of the app that we are going to build with the control showing up in the lock screen. And also you will have the basic controls to pause the music or fast forward or rewind, control the volume, and skip to next item or the previous item. Okay, so this will go away only when you kill the app, right? So this is going to stay just like like we mentioned, the Amazon Music or other music players that you are using. So it's going to stay in the lock screen until you kill the app. Okay, so let's see how we can do it. I'll be providing the link to the plugins that I'm using and also the source code for this demo in the description below this video. So watch till the end, and if you find the video useful, please support by subscribing to this channel, and also please like and share the video. So let's not waste the time and jump into the code. Okay. So I have a basic Flutter project ready, and this is my pubspec.yaml file where we add the plugins. We have the HTTP package, the audio service package, and the just audio package. So let me explain what each will do. The HTTP package will fetch the audio from the internet. The audio service package will help us to play the audio in the background, and the just audio is the audio player that we are using to play the audio. Okay, so once you add all these plugins, make sure to call flutter packages get, or if you are using the VS Code, it should automatically call. So if not, please call the flutter packages get and install the packages. Okay, so let me show the main.dart file, which is our entry point, where I have just a container set as home. Okay, so we'll be creating new screens. All right, so these are the three plugins that we are using. So let me create a new folder. I'm going to name it music player and a screen music player screen.dart. Okay, and I'm going to create a stateful widget and name it music player screen. Okay, so let's import the material package. All right, now let's create a simple UI. So we need a scaffold with an up bar and the title, let's say music player. Okay, and we need a body. So let's set an empty container now with a padding of 20. Okay, now I'm gonna create a new file called audio player, where we will be writing all the background logic for the audio player. Okay, so audio player.dart. Let's import the needed packages here. So the first one is the audio service package. Second one is the just audio package. Okay, so let me show the audio service package. So you need to have some prerequisites. So if you go to the documentation, you will see some of the things that you need to add in the native side. So for Android, let's open up the Android project here. So I'm going to open it in the Android Studio. Open the Android manifest.xml file and add these two permissions, the wake lock and the foreground service permission. And inside the application tag, you need to have the service and the receiver, which is responsible for connecting to the audio service in Android, and the receiver is to receive the actions from the buttons in the lock screen controls. Okay, so in case of iOS, so if you go to the documentation, this was for Android. So okay, so we did all these, right? The manifest changes. Okay, so go down, and so it's saying like we need to have images in these folders, so you can add that as well. And in the build.gradle, set the string resources to false. And for iOS, let's go to the iOS project and go to the info.plist for your project. So if you have multiple targets, the corresponding info.plist file, add required background modes, and inside that add a new item with value audio. Okay, so it's going to say that. Now let's switch back to the Flutter project and let's create the lock screen controls. So each control is called a media control. So the first one is the play control. So media control, you can set the Android icon. Make sure to add that icon in the drawable folder. Okay, and label play action, that will be media action.play. Okay, so similarly we need to have the other controls as well. So what are the controls that you need to show up in the lock screen, or you want to use it in the lock screen? Make sure to declare like this. Okay, so second one is the pause control. So give it the image pause. The next one is the skip to next control. Okay, the next one is the skip to previous control. Okay, and the final one is the stop control, media action.stop. Okay, now we are going to create a class called audio player task, which extends background audio task. Okay, so this is going to be a separate thread. So I'm going to paste some values here. So this is a queue with 2 media items which we are going to play in the player. Okay, so I'll explain each of this, what are each fields, in a short while. So let me just declare some variables. The first one is the queue index. I'm setting it to -1, and the audio player, so that is a new audio player. Okay, and the next variable, audio processing state. So we're gonna track the audio processing state and boolean playing. Okay, next boolean get has next, that is q index +1 less than q dot length, and similarly as previous means a function, an arrow function, q index greater than 0. So if it is q index greater than 0, then as previous should be true. Okay, and the next function to get the current media item, so q of q index. Okay, next we are going to override some functions. The first one is on start. So on start will take some parameters. Next one is the on play. Third one is the on pause, and the fourth one is on skip to next. The next one is let's say on skip to previous, and next is on stop. Okay, so before that let's override on seek to and on click. Okay, and on fast forward, on rewind. Okay, so you can override these functions, and you can have your own logic in each of these functions. So this will be triggered when the corresponding actions are triggered from the UI or from the lock screen controls. Okay, all right, now let's so we'll see how these are triggered in a short while. Okay, now we need 2 more variables. So the first one is stream subscription of type. So we are going to listen to audio playback state, so player state subscription. Okay, and second one is stream subscription of type audio playback event, that is event subscription. Now we are going to initialize it. So on start, player state subscription is equal to audio player dot playback state stream dot where. So we are going to listen to the audio complete event. Okay, so state is equal to audio playback state dot completed dot listen event. So let's rename to state. So when playback is completed, we are going to call a function handle playback complete. Okay, so we will implement it in a short while. Now let's implement the onPlay method. Okay, so if the processing state is null, we will set the playing to true and audio player dot play. Okay, so that's going to play the current media item. Okay, and on pause, so we will set the playing equal to false and call audio player dot pause. Okay, we have not set the media item in the audio player yet. Okay, we will be doing it in a short while. Now let's write a new method, skip. That's going to take the offset. Okay, so we are going to use this method, the same method for skip to previous and skip to next. Okay, so that's why the offset. So new position is q index plus offset. So we need to set the proper q index, right? Now we are checking the border conditions, and if it is not met, then we are going to return from there. Otherwise, we are going to check if the playing is null. So that's the initial condition. We are setting the playing to true. Otherwise, if it is already playing, then we will stop the player. Okay, audio player dot stop. Okay, and q index is equal to new position, and audio processing state is equal to, if the offset is greater than 0, then we are skipping to next, right? Otherwise we are skipping to previous. Okay, all right, now call audio service background dot set media item. So this is how you set the media item for the player to play. Okay, and call audio player dot set URL media item dot id. Okay, and setting audio processing state is equal to null. So if you want to play, then if playing variable is true, call onPlay. Otherwise we'll decide it later. Okay, so on skip to next, we'll call skip of 1, and on skip to previous, that will be skip of -1. Okay, so that's going to set our q index with proper offset +1 or -1, and it will go to next or previous accordingly, right? So our skip functionality is complete, but you can modify it any way you want. Okay, so this is a basic setup, right? Now I'm gonna write a new method called setState, with which we are going to update our main UI. Okay, since these are different threads, there is no direct way to update them. So audio player, so this plugin provides a way to update the UI about the state changes. Okay, so this is our method setState. It's gonna take the audio processing state, duration, and the buffered position. Okay, so we are going to check if the position is null. So what we are going to do is, the duration is null, then duration is equal to, let me change that to position. I think that makes sense. So position is equal to audio player dot playback event dot position. Okay, so if there is no position, then we are initializing it. Then so this is how we are going to update the UI. So audio player audio service background provides a method called setState that will update the UI. So that will send the data to the UI. Okay, so assume it as a setState in your UI. So let's set the parameters. The first one is a get controls. So we need to get the controls if the current state is playing. So if it is playing, then we need the skip to previous control, pause control, stop control, and skip to next control. So if it is not playing, we will just change the pause control to play control. So remember, we had already declared these controls. Okay, so passing the controls there, and the processing state will be, so we are going to check if the processing state that is passed in is null. So if it is null, then we are going to pass in the audio service background.state.processing state. Okay, so if it is connecting or buffering, something like that. Okay, and playing is the playing state, so that is passed in. So you can have other parameters as well. So if you want to send the position, you can send the position. The speed is audio player dot speed, and if you go to the function definition, you can see there are system actions that you can send, right? So let's send the system actions. Okay, so let me send media action dot seek to. Okay, so those are the parameters that you want to send to the UI to update your main UI, right? Okay, so that is done. Now if we go to a skip, we left something there, so we can send ready from here. So when you skip, and if it is not playing, we are just sending ready. So that also it's up to you. Whatever you want, you can send it to the UI, and UI can process according to that. Okay, now let me write, so we didn't write the on stop method, right? So let me write the on stop method. So always call await super stop. Okay, so I'm setting the playing to false, and audio player dot stop, and audio player dot dispose, and cancel all subscriptions, right? We didn't initialize the other subscription, right? So let's initialize that. So that will be event subscription is equal to audio player dot, so we are going to listen to the playback event state. So let's see what are the events here. So let's get the buffering state first. So final buffering state is equal to event dot buffering. So if it is buffering, then audio processing state dot buffering, otherwise null. Okay, so let's see what are the other events. So let's write a switch statement with event dot state, and the first case is audio playback state dot paused, second one is playing, and third one is connecting. You can even listen to other events as well, and the default case. Okay, so when it is paused, we are going to send the processing state to the UI. So that is the buffering state. If it is null, then that means we are ready to start playing. Okay, you can send the other parameters as well. So if it is playing, we are going to do the same. So let's send the position also with the set state, that is event dot position. Since it is paused, right, we can get the position as well, and also the same thing for playing. And if it is connecting, then we are going to check the processing state instead of buffering state, right, and send as connecting. Okay, so those were the different states, and that's how we update the UI about the state changes in the audio service, which is a separate isolate. Okay, and finally audio service background dot set queue. So this is how you set the queue in the audio service which is running in the background, right? So don't forget to add this statement. And I'm calling on skip to next when we are starting the player. So since it is set to true, it's going to start playing from then okay, so we set the URL and we set the playing to true, so that's going to start playing. Otherwise it's going to update the UI that it is ready to start playing. Okay, so let's see what are the other methods that we have not implemented yet, right? So the seek2 is one of them. So let's add audio player dot seek with the position and on click. This is what when the play or pause in the lock screen is clicked, the on click will be called. So let's write a new function, play pause, and I'm going to check if the audio service background dot state dot is playing. Then we will pause the audio, otherwise we are going to play the audio. Call play pause and the on click. Okay, so let's see what are the other methods that we need to implement. So let's implement the until playback complete method. So when an audio is complete, we need to play the next audio, right? So let's check if there is something in the queue, that means has next, then we will do on skip to next, otherwise we will stop the audio. Okay, all right, now let's implement the seek2 functionality. For that, I'm writing a new function, future void seek relative. Okay, and that's going to be an asynchronous function with the duration offset parameter. So a new variable, new position is equal to audio player dot playback event dot position plus offset. So we are going to check if the new offset, that's a new position, is less than duration dot 0, then we will set the new position to duration dot 0. Okay, now we need to check the boundary condition, the other boundary condition, new position greater than media item dot duration, then new position is equal to media item dot duration, and call await audio player dot seek, and the new position is audio player dot playback event dot position plus offset. Okay, sorry, I made a mistake here. So this line, it should be outside the if condition. So if those two conditions are not met, then the audio player will seek to the new offset, correct? Okay, now let's go ahead and use this function seek relative in the pass forward. So await seek relative and pass in the pass forward interval. So you can pass your own value in the audio.start, which we have not written yet. Okay, so this is a default value. So similarly for on rewind, there will be rewind interval. Okay, so let's see what we have done so far. Initially we declared the media control buttons, then we created the audio player task. So audio player task will have a queue. So here we have a queue with 2 media items and a queue index to track the index, an audio player and audio processing state, and we have a method to get the media item, and each media item is identified by the unique ID, and album and title is mandatory, and we are listening to the states in the player. Okay, and we are updating the UI using the setState method. Okay, so you can update the UI according to your logic. So whatever value you want to pass, you can pass in. All right, and also don't forget to set the queue, and after that we are skipping to next. There we are setting the playing to true, so it will start playing, finding the new index, and if the playing is true, then we will, so we are setting the media item and URL in the audio player, and if the playing is true, then it will start playing. Okay, and on stop, don't forget to call audio player stop and dispose, and also the stop. And we have the set state method with which we are updating the UI. Okay, so you can send your parameters with it. All right, now let's go to the main UI and let's see how we can implement the UI and keep track of the background running audio player. Okay, so I'm setting the container color to white and a child, which is a stream builder. So the background running audio player is going to communicate with the help of streams to the UI. Okay, so that is why we have a stream builder here, and we need to listen to the audio player streams. Okay, so the audio player has different streams, and we can have different stream builders to listen to each stream, or we can combine all those streams into one. Okay, so we are going to combine some streams into one, and we are going to listen to that. Okay, so let's write a new class, audio state. You can name it whatever you want. Okay, and that's going to have a list of media item queue and a media item, and finally the playback state and a constructor that will accept these three parameters. Okay, now let's write a method to combine some streams, and we'll pass it through the audio state. So stream audio state get, I'm gonna name it audio state stream. Okay, now we have to decide what are the streams that we want to combine. So I'm gonna import the audio state, and also we will need the RX. So we need to import the RX dot. Okay, all right, and RX dot combine latest 3. So we are going to combine 3 streams. So you can use the latest 3 and pass in the types, list of media item, and second one is the media item, and third one is the playback state. So we are going to combine these 3 streams from the audio player and pass it through the audio state. Okay, the fourth parameter is the audio state, right? So after playback state, we need to add the audio state. And let's see what are the 3 streams. So the first stream is audio service dot queue stream. Second one is audio service dot current media item stream, and third one is the playback state, right? So audio service dot playback stream. The 3 parameters, the first one is the queue, so that's the audio state constructor, and third one is the playback state. Okay, and return the audio state with queue, media item, and the playback state. Okay, now let's use the stream in our stream builder in the UI. Okay, so let me add the audio state in the stream builder and pass in the stream. That's the audio state stream, and stream builder will have the builder property, so which will have the context and the snapshot. So the snapshot will have the data. So audio state is equal to snapshot.data. Now let's get the other parameters. So final q is equal to audio state dot q, audio state dot q. Okay, and the third one is final media item. So that's the current media item that is playing or paused, right? So audio state dot media item. And the fourth one is the playback state. So audio state dot playback state. So we got the three values from the streams, and we can get the additional data from these three streams. So let's get the processing state. That will be playback state dot processing state. Okay, so if it is null, we are setting it to none. Okay, so so those are the three streams: queue stream, media item stream, and playback state stream. Okay, so you can add more streams if you want. You can have a custom stream as well. Okay, so if you want, you can go to the library and see what is going on. So that is the list of media item. Second one is the media item, and third one is the playback state. Okay, now let's get the playing state as well. So final playing is equal to playback state dot playing. Otherwise, if it is null, we are setting it to false. So let's return the view from here. So I'm returning a container with width as the width of the screen and a column as the child. So I'm setting the basic parameters: main axis alignment to center and cross axis alignment to center, and the main axis size to maximum, and children. So I'm gonna check if the processing state is equal to audio processing state dot none. Then I'm gonna add a button. So let's create a button, start audio play button. So that's going to start the audio service. It's not the play button. Okay, so audio processing state none means the audio service has not started yet. So let's return a material button with child, a text. I'm gonna say start audio player, and on press of the button we're going to actually start the audio service. Okay, so call await audio service dot start, and it should have an entry point. So this is a separate isolate. Okay, sorry, let's put it inside the class. Okay, so this is going to be a separate isolate, so make sure you write it outside the class. So it should be a top level function or a static method. Okay, so inside this method we are going to call the audio service background dot run. That's going to start a new isolate. So that's our audio player task. So return the audio player task. Okay, and let's add that method in the audio service dot start, and you can have a fast forward interval or the rewind interval if you want to set it. You can set it here. Okay, so let me set the Android notification channel name and notification color. So you can set any color and any name you want. Okay, and okay, so we have the, let me set a different color. Okay, so whatever you want. And the final one is the Android notification icon. So you need to add this icon in your Android project inside the map folder. Okay, and now we have added the start audio play button, and if the audio service has started already, then we need to add the player controls. Correct? So let me add a sized box and a row. with main axis alignment center and children. So I'm going to check if something is playing, then we need to add the, sorry, if it is not playing, then we need to add the play button, right? And on press of the play button, we'll call audio service dot play. So that's going to call the on play overridden method. And so otherwise we need to show the pause button and call pause. So similarly, we need to have the skip to next and skip to previous buttons, right? So let me copy the two buttons and change the name to the icons to skip to previous and the function to skip to previous and skip to next. Okay, now we have three buttons here based on the condition, right? But we need to have a condition for the skip to previous method, right? So if the media item is the first one, then it doesn't make sense to skip to previous, correct? So return from there and call skip to previous outside. And similarly for skip to next, we are going to check if the media item is the last one, then return from there and call the skip to next outside the if condition. Okay, now let's run the application and see how it works. So start audio player button, click on that. So the audio player has started now, and it's actually playing, but you won't hear it in the video. And I'm skipping to next, and if I go to the notification panel, you can see the controls here like you see in the Amazon Music or any other player, right? And you can fast forward or rewind, and it will continue playing until we kill the app. Okay, now we will see how we can send parameters to the audio player task from outside, like from the UI, right? So usually we'll be getting the data from outside and we'll be sending that to the audio player service, correct? So here I had hard-coded the media items, right? So let me copy that and paste it in our main UI. So assume that this is coming from a service or your own data source, okay? And I just emptied the queue in the audio player task class that we created, okay? So if you remember the onStart method that we override in the audio player task, there was a params parameter, right? So if you look at here in the audio service.start, you can see the same parameters here. So that is called the params, right? So that means we can send parameters to the onStart of the audio player task, that's a background task, using this property, right? So let's try to send our queue through this parameter. Okay, so for that I am going to create a list of dynamic, and the variable name queue list is equal to new list. Okay, and I'm going to loop through the queue array we have. Okay, so we have two items in the queue array, correct? So what we are going to do is to loop through the array and get each item, and I'm going to convert each item to JSON. Okay, so why I am converting it to JSON is because, so if you go to the message codex.dart, and you can see what are the basic parameters that it can accept. Okay, so if you are sending some wrong parameters, or if you are sending some Dart objects or your custom objects, then it's not going to work. Okay, also it's a thread to thread communication. Okay, and so I added it to the queue list, and I'm creating a map of string and a value, because the onStart accepts map of string and dynamic parameter, right? So that should be a colon. Okay, there. So onStart map of string and dynamic parameters, right? Now let's accept the data in here and set the queue. So I'm just clearing the queue, and list of media item is equal to params of data, right? Okay, so now we got the list. The next thing is we need to convert it back to each media item and add it to the queue in the audio player task, right? So media item is equal to media item dot from JSON, and let's supply the string, and then we need to add it to the queue, right? Okay, okay, so we have the queue here and we are setting the queue at the end, so we are all set now. All right, so all other things is the same, so we are just sending the parameters from outside the audio player task thread. Okay, so you should have all these images, and if you go to the documentation, you can see in the build out Gradle we need to set the string resources to false. Okay, sync the project, and iOS we already set, so make sure you have the proper images for Android and this manifest.xml entries. Okay, all right, so this is going to work the same way as we did earlier. So if you want to skip to a new item, a particular media item, you can use skip to queue item, and you need to override on skip to queue item, and you want to set the URL of the audio player to that media ID and call on play. So that's up to you, whatever your logic you want, you can implement it there. And the main thing is, if we don't want the player and if you are exiting from this screen, we have to stop the player, right? And we have to release the memory. So I'm gonna write the dispose method. I'm gonna override the dispose method for this screen, and let's suppose I am going away from this screen and I don't want the player, so I'm just calling audio service.stop. So you may want to check if it is already playing, or some checks you want, you can always add that. So if it is not playing, then you just want to check if audio service dot playback state is playing or not, then you want to stop it or pause it. Okay, so you need to add those checks if you want. So so those are the cleanup work you want to do. Okay, so it's going to work the same way. So it's actually playing, and I'm gonna skip to the next item and pause the item, so everything is working good. And if I look at the notification screen, you can see the player running and it's playing. So you can pause or fast forward or whatever you want to do, you can do it. Okay, so that was a basic example of how to create a background running music player. Okay, so I'll be providing the link to the plugins that I used and the link to the source code for this demo in the description below this video. And in the source code, I have also added a seed bar to drag the audio to a position and play from there. Okay, I'm not showing that in this video, so this video is already lengthy. Okay, so I don't want to extend it further. If you want me to do a tutorial on a specific topic, please feel free to comment it below this video, and I will try my best to create one. If this video is useful for you, please support me by subscribing to my channel and also like and share the video. And finally, thanks for watching and see you in the next video. Until then, bye.